My guest today is the host of an interview web series called Milkshake Scholar, in which he uses milkshakes as a vehicle to talk to writers, artists, industry leaders, and advocates. Look, on a personal level, I love this man so much. We have freakishly parallel lives. I mean, he is my brother from another mother, literally, because we always find ourselves on the same path. We did our MFA together. We have the same conversations with our agents, and we are both part of the Slice editorial team. He is my favorite MC partner, and if you ever get us on a panel together, we do not shut up. Please welcome Randy Winston.
Yo, I feel like when you said parallel lives, it's kind of like Mobius and Loki, but we'll get into that.
You did not start this episode off with like that reference.
We're good, man. I feel like I'm in the MCU. Like I've been following your stuff on Instagram.
Oh man,
you're like a superhero.
I know, man. First of all, I love that you compared us as variants. I just want to say, like, that's like, I should have put that in the intro. Like, you're always one step ahead of me, A. B, yeah, I got lonely during quarantine. I needed to talk to people. I mean, other than you and like everyone else, but like, 2020, what the fuck was that year?
Listen, it was wild.
Oh my God. Well, it's so fortuitous we have you on the podcast today because what's one of the variants name in this episode?
Randy.
I literally heard that. I watched the episode maybe like a couple days ago and I was like, oh my God, it's fucking Randy. Like, what were the odds?
I was sitting on my couch because I usually watch these early in the morning right before work because in the past it's Friday, now it's Wednesday. And I sat straight up and paused the show. I was like, oh, I'm here. I'm in it.
I mean, that again goes to what I was saying in our intro. We're always on the same page. I mean, like the fact that it's Randy here, like that's just like mind blowing to me. Wait, I want to
ask. Or is it Loki?
Or is it Loki? Well, we're going to get into that. I have theories about that variant, Randy variant. But wait, this is something I haven't asked anyone, and I'm curious about your perspective. Do you like watching them on Wednesdays, or do you like watching them on Fridays?
I mean, listen, at this point, it's a drug. I'll take whatever day I get, whatever they're giving to me. But I will say I do love the Fridays because Friday is the door to the weekend. And it feels like Saturday cartoons all over again. The fact that we don't get these all like the whole season at one time, we have to watch week to week. So it's great because when I'm checking in with when I sit down on a Friday morning to watch MCU content, it is so exciting because even if I have to work, it's the weekend. It feels great. So Wednesdays, but I guess it's nice. It gets me through the rest of the week.
Yeah, I don't know why they opted to switch it to Wednesdays other than maybe they're just testing the market, seeing where people go. I still watch them on Fridays. So when I was like, I watched it a few days ago.
Oh, you do?
Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, I still watch. I order a pizza. It's like my TGIF. You know what I mean?
Someone in my Marvel group chat told me that it's because of another show that comes out on Fridays on Disney Plus. It's Marvel or superhero related. I cannot remember what the show is. But it's animated. So someone's probably going to be in the chat watching this answer immediately. So yeah, I forgot what the name of the show is.
What do you talk about in your Marvel chat? Do you have any like questions or has anyone like been like, I don't know what this is? Are you all like at the same level with your fandom or some like really crazy stands and some are just, oblivious? Where are you on the spectrum?
So I was invited into this group chat and they are stans. They are hardcore. They've done the comics and I'm like the newbie. I haven't read any of the comics, but I've seen every TV show and watched every movie. So I'm on that end. So when we're talking, I'm giving more of a film perspective, TV show perspective, and they're more like, oh, let me give you the history on this so that you can to enhance your perspective, which is great. But it's never like someone talking down to me or whatever. It's great. I love it. And it depends. I will give like very direct, and then some people will give like a dissertation of what they thought the scene was about. So it's great. Depending on what we're talking about, the conversation goes all over the place. I love it.
You know what I love about this new generation of Marvel stans, and I think it's people who are MCU stans as well. There is no condescending remarks from people like that. No one talks down to anyone anymore. It's when I was growing up and you were on the message boards, like if you did not know this specific issue, the specific dialogue, or like the exact history of a character, people ate you alive. And you're like, fuck, chill. Chill. I'm learning too. I'm learning as I go. And it's funny, I had someone on the podcast recently who like interrupted me and was like, I don't want your listeners to think you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, what? I'm sorry, I don't know every single effing detail. And I think it's so refreshing to hear that stands out there literally are just more inclusive in the conversations. It's more like, hey, no, let's talk about this.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I noticed is that the people I know who are deep in it, like read all the comics, the graphic novels, they are always they're excited to share their knowledge in a way where it's not condescending. It's more like, oh no, this is cool. You're going to love this, and that's what really gets me excited about it too. So, yeah, man.
You probably got a lot of you're going to be excited about this while you were watching WandaVision.
I love WandaVision so much.
Is that your favorite one so far? Which one is your favorite so far of the Disney Plus shows?
You know what, Paul? I thought it would be WandaVision, but now I think I love all three of them in their own way because they're all unique. Man, WandaVision but I don't know. Like I think it's special. I think WandaVision is to me my favorite because it was the first, right? It's the first of this group, and that my expectations were low, and they far exceeded. Like that show far exceeded my expectations, and that's like I remember after like episode 3, I thought to myself, Disney is not playing around, and then they come with Falcon Winter Soldier. And, I love Falcon, even though I always felt like Falcon wasn't getting enough play in the films because he's always the sidekick, which annoyed me. And we can talk about that another time. But, we finally get Falcon starring in a show. And I love Winter Soldier. I love Sebastian. So it was great.
Their chemistry was beautiful.
Yeah, it's a great show. There were some people that were super critical of it, and I get the criticisms, but at the end of the day, it's Disney. Like we can talk about, it's a long story, but anyway, I love the show. And now here we are with Loki, and the god of mischief, and my goodness, the bar is high, and Loki has met the expectations so far for me. And I know it's the first 2 episodes, so we're not gonna get as much, but the pacing and the buildup that we're getting, something crazy about to happen, Paul. Something crazy about to happen. I'm excited.
So the episode when it ends and the timeline is blown up and it shows where all the fractions in the timeline occur, we'll get into that. I was like, motherfucker, they went there. And then when they revealed I have very mixed feelings on the variant and her look and who she is. We can talk about that, obviously. But, if WandaVision was about grief and Falcon the Winter Soldier was about accepting responsibility, trauma,
You get deep. Let's go.
We're going deep. We're going deep here. WandaVision was about grief. Falcon the Winter Soldier was about accepting responsibility, systemic racism, and trauma. What do you think Loki is about? Because I haven't been able to find an answer for that.
Man, I think I've been dealing with this lately myself because I'm working on this essay collection about where do I go from here. And I think a lot of, I'm projecting here, but I believe it's about belief and reality.
Oh, I love that.
Like what's real and what isn't, but also what's like purpose, like what's your purpose? Given the reality that you find yourself in, what's your purpose? And I think that's what Loki's facing right now, because you see him in these first 2 episodes. You see him battling himself, like internally, and you're watching his facial expressions and how he reacts to certain things, how he responds to Mobius, and it's just like you see the old Loki coming out where he's just like
Mhm.
trying to play the trickster, but then you also see him really trying to work through his thoughts and like, what if people are right about me? What do I do next? Like, if I'm not the god of mischief now, then what am I? Like, who am I? So, yeah, that's fun. It adds another level of depth to Loki, who when I first saw Thor the first time, I just thought he was annoying, and in each movie, they continue to add depth to him to the point where we got to Endgame, and I'm just like, man,
Yeah.
Loki's that dude.
Well, I love the journey the character had from that first Thor movie all the way through Endgame, and we saw that encapsulated in Episode 1. And he actually witnessed that journey, and it had a profound effect on him because this is the 2012 Loki.
Yeah.
But I agree with everything you just said because I agree. I don't want to like reference this, but for whatever reason, my hungover brain, this is the only literature I can go to. It reminds me a lot of Fountainhead, which is it's a self versus society, or in this case, Loki versus the universe. And that idea of individualism rising above this predestined plan they had for him. And I kind of like that, and so I agree with what you said. It's all about like, who am I? And where do I go from here? And especially like now he's peeking behind the veil and like the god, he's a god, but now he's peeking behind like the veil and who's really connecting the dots for him in his life. So I'm curious where that's going to take him at the end of it.
And Paul, imagine this. You have a god being talked to as if he's like just a normal person. Everyone's like, go sit down somewhere. Here, do some paperwork. I have to go eat my snack. Here, just stay busy. It's like the dynamics there, the power dynamics, and how they shifted is fascinating. I love it.
Did your face crack when he was in that office and he goes into the drawer and he finds the Infinity Stones? And they're like, yeah, they're just paperweights here.
Yeah. And then they just, that to me, just the world building here is phenomenal. I love it so much.
I love it too. So what are your thoughts on the MCU as a whole, and how do you feel about the Disney Plus shows sort of playing a role in that? Do you think it's enhanced the stories?
There's no candy on Asgard. I mean, does that mean there's no ice cream, no milkshakes? What in the world?
Can you imagine a world without milkshakes?
But I love the MCU world and the expansion of it. I have friends who are very frustrated with Disney and the film industry in general and what this means as they continue to put out more films in the phases. But I think for someone like me who like loves escapism, I feel like they are really giving us what we want right now. Like truly, we the films. I thought it was glorious that we were getting these films.
Yeah.
And multiple films a year. And now we're getting TV shows and films. And the TV shows, I mean, for the exception of that gap between Falcon Winter Soldier and Loki, we've been getting shows every week.
Yeah. It's almost like they're doing the format of comic books where they comes out weekly and then you have your larger events, which will be the movies. My only qualm, and I've said this many times before, I do feel so far the shows are skippable if you're only following the movies. Because Falcon the Winter Soldier is all about Sam's journey in accepting like the Captain America mantle, which thematically he accepted at the end of Endgame. He got the shield, and then you can pick up with Captain America 4, and that's it. You draw the line there. Similarly with WandaVision, I mean, she'll pick up in Doctor Strange 2, and that's it. I'm sure they'll have a line about her costume and being called Scarlet Witch, but that's not to say that not a lot of meaty, great character development does not happen in those shows. I'm just curious, will those plots that they set up play, a larger role? Like, will we see her again as a power broker? Are we going to see Agatha again?
I love that you brought this up because I am a huge fan of detail. And so
Yes,
I definitely understand what you mean by you can skip these, and of course they're going to add a line or two in the movie so that you're caught up to speed.
hmm,
But there's something to be said about those nuances, like those subtle reminders of where these characters have come from and the road they traveled. So, like when we see, and I told a friend this as soon as Sam and Winter Soldier Bucky finished, as soon as the show finished, I was like, man, I cannot wait to see them in the next Marvel film because when they look at each other, they're gonna say a line from the show, and only people who watch the show will get it.
I
And like,
agree. That's actually a really good point.
oh, that to me is like that's worth the 6 to 8 weeks of just for that one line in the film where only the folks in the theater who watch the show will get it. And it's just like, and like you said, this is like a intersection with the comics where only the people who've watched the comics will get those Easter eggs that you see throughout Loki. Like I have to watch YouTube videos to figure out what these Easter eggs are, and they are everywhere. They're in
Ah,
every scene. So I know folks who watch comic or who read comics, they're like, oh my God, oh my God.
it's
Meanwhile, I'm
insane.
watching the show like, oh.
The Easter eggs were insane, particularly for WandaVision. I mean, they were like everywhere. I mean, and I think Loki so far has had so many Easter eggs. Historically, I'm not a big Thor reader. I haven't read a lot of Thor or Loki as part of like I'm an X-Men person. And that's why I like covering shows like Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki because it exposes me to those comics, which I never really fully I mean, listen, there are only so many hours in a day. And prior to starting a podcast, I used to read a book. I used to read actual like normal books. Now I just read comics all day.
I love it. You know,
um,
Paul, you mentioned that you didn't read a lot of Thor. So of course I mentioned that I haven't read any comics, but I did watch the Viking series that came out
oh
on the
yeah.
History Channel, and there was a mention of the wolf's ears, wolf's teeth. And so when Loki said it, I was like, "Oh, Norse mythology! I know that."
Yes.
That was like a moment where I was like, "Oh, okay, I know a little something here. I know a little something here."
So, who is your favorite like Marvel character if you had to pick one?
All right, that's tough. Yeah, all right, so as much as I love escapism, I
Mhm,
still like fiction, fantasy, sci-fi that's grounded in like the reality or like the world we live in some kind of way.
mhm.
So like I love Thor and I love Black Panther,
Oh, I love that.
but I tend to identify more with someone like a Sam Wilson or like an Iron Man or a Captain America, where it's like he can only do so much. He can't fly. He
Yeah.
has a great shield, but that's not the end of his power, you know? Like his character, like be like who he is as a person really speaks to who he is as a superhero. And then like Iron Man and like all the devils he's fighting, and like, but I'm very smart and I can build things. And so it's like these things that he builds, someone right now that we know could actually build what he built. Like someone can actually build an Iron Man suit. I actually have a friend in Atlanta who built like half of an Iron Man suit, and I was like,
Stop it.
"You are, yeah, literally insane." I'll send you the videos after we're done. But I was like, that's insane." Um,
Invite this gentleman on the Zoom right now. And let's
I,
get Iron Man suits for us.
I can't believe I've never introduced you all to each other. I should do that. But yeah, so I don't know. Like I love a lot of them, but the ones whose superhero abilities are limited, I love even more because they have to think more through how they're gonna get out of the situation. Whereas Thor is just like, give me my goddamn hammer. I'm just like, or like the Scarlet Witch, like in her shit, like. So there's different ways to get out of a situation, and so yeah, I'm gonna roll with one of those three.
Okay, that's
That's
fair.
cheating. That's definitely cheating, and I own up to that. But yeah, that's who I'm rolling with. I did mention a while back that I love Wolverine, and you and I have talked about this.
Well, you know, an X-Men question was coming, so
Yeah, I mean, I love Wolverine, and like all the demons that he has to fight, and watching him and Logan reminded me of that short story collection by Dennis Johnson, Jesus' Son.
oh
I
yeah.
don't know if it's so. It just reminded me of like a tortured man who can't escape his demons. I love Wolverine. So that's my guy. That's
Is
my guy.
there a specific Wolverine story that you were exposed to at all ever, or just like Logan and Hugh Jackman's? Did you like the cartoon version of Wolverine as well?
So it started with WB.
Mhm.
WB on the weekends, that the cartoon, the iconic X-Men cartoon, it started
Love
there.
it. Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't really know a lot about Wolverine outside of that. And so I was like, ooh, Cyclops is cool. And then I'm introduced to Logan in the movies. And I'm like, oh, this guy has more depth than I thought. And so it started. That's where my fascination with him started. And yeah, I love that character a lot. I really do. Although
I
I will say there are a lot of characters, a lot of tortured souls in these comics and
oh my God.
shows. And you know, I think that's the beauty of what Disney's doing now is you get that depth with each character, and it's not really this person is bad, this person is good. It's more like, oh, these are the decisions they make, and the decisions they make them who they are.
Well, that's what they said in this episode too. Like they have a quote where it's something to the effect of like, not everyone is entirely bad, not everyone is entirely good. I mean, these are morally gray characters. But speaking of anti-heroes and characters who are, occupy that nebulous morality, and thinking of Black Panther 2, they just casted Namor in there. And I know they're still trying to figure out how they're going to do it with Chadwick's passing, but I think bringing in Namor is going to be a new anti-hero because he's also an X-Men character. So I'm so excited to see how that's going to play out. But, the rumor for a long time was that Storm would appear in Black Panther 2 as T'Challa's love interest, as in the comic books. Like, can you imagine? Like, that is where Storm needs to be. And I don't
Oh,
know. It's
oh,
so the whole situation is just so sad.
you just blew my mind. See, this is where not being a comic book reader, like comic book readers will just toss something in there, and I'm like,
Sorry.
what?
So T'Challa and Storm were married in the comics.
Shut
Yeah, it's huge. So the big rumor was for a while, because now that the X-Men rights are back with Disney, because obviously Disney bought Fox, and
You
they were
know what
gonna.
I'm Paul, you know what I'm thinking about right now. God rest Chadwick Boseman. So
um,
I'm thinking about Chadwick Boseman and Halle Berry right now.
oh
That's
my
all I can think about.
God, that's so hot. Yeah, it's. We'll see what ends up coming of it, but I think we're definitely getting Namor, and I'm curious to see what kind of anti-hero he's gonna be, because he's gonna be a morally great character. There's no way he's just gonna be a villain. But okay. But speaking of these morally great characters, everything, and bringing it back to Loki, did you watch Thor Ragnarok? I'm assuming yes.
I did. I did. I watched Thor Ragnarok, not recently, but I did.
Mm.
It was when I first watched it, it wasn't one of my favorites, but since then, all of the stories that have happened since then and how people pull from that film, I'm like, oh, that actually was not a bad film at all. It set up a lot for things to come. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
and
good.
they're getting a part that was literally it was supposed to be the end of the trilogy, and it was so well received that we're getting Thor: Love and Thunder now, which
Excited.
Tom Hiddleston is not mentioned on set. He has not been seen on set. He's not part of the cast. So I'm wondering if, again, his like death in Endgame, that's it as far as the movies are concerned. So if you want to find out what happened to that Loki who left, you can only see it on the Disney Plus shows. I don't know. Do you have a
Well,
theory? Yes, yes.
I do not think we are seeing the end of film Loki. I think that the TV show is setting up perhaps because in All right, so this is me understanding my conversations with my comic friends, with my comic book friends. I do believe that Loki is gender fluid.
Yep.
And I also believe that because of these shifts in timelines and all that, our Loki might end up taking the body or somehow making a deal or somehow shifting things around so that our Loki comes back.
Yeah. So in the comic books, as you already know, we get multiple versions of Loki. We have like Kid Loki, who's part of the Young Avengers. We have Lady Loki, who we'll talk about in great detail in this episode because I was a little disappointed with the reveal. And I know it's just, I don't, we'll get into it in a second. So I want to see, because we know the Young Avengers are coming. I mean, that for sure is going to happen. We got the twins in WandaVision. We have Cassie Lang in Ant-Man and the Wasp 3. We have the Hawkeye series where Kate Bishop is already cast. We have Ironheart coming, who's presumably going to fill in that Iron Lad role. So they have to do Kid Loki, and I think we're going to get a Kid Loki out of this. But I meant more like Tom Hiddleston. I wonder if he'll return as is, because I think Loki is already, and I just read this on Wikipedia. I have no more research past that, but I think they're filming a season 2.
They are. And I mean, we may be jumping ahead, but I do believe that we're being set up like Mobius and Loki's stories are too close to like. I think either Mobius turns, or Mobius is taken, or Mobius dies, and in some way, maybe Loki takes his position, and in season 2 is Loki now hunting down something or someone.
I like that.
Oh, that's what I want, but I know I may not get it, but that's what I want.
So here's the thing that I feel like this show is setting up. First of all, I think everyone thought that WandaVision was going to be setting up the multiverse and, the timeline and everything. And they planted the seeds with Wanda being a Nexus being. And so we know from the Miss Minute cartoon that long ago there were things that were called like Nexus events where it splintered the timeline. There was an infinite amount of like alternate timelines. And then there was a Great War. And now there's like the Sacred Timeline. I think they are setting up Secret Wars, and which is, do you know Secret Wars?
I've heard of Secret Wars. The YouTubers have been educating me on Secret Wars. But outside of that, I know nothing of Secret Wars. I just know that whatever it is going to be epic. That's
There are 2 Secret Wars. There's like the original one that was made for like selling toys where all the heroes come together on a planet and they fight, blah, blah, blah. I think it's going to be Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars, which we actually read and we probably talked about in Dale Peck's class. Briefly. I think it was just like, no, we didn't talk about it as part of the curriculum or anything. It was like when we were waiting for people to come into the class. You were sitting next to me. I was talking to Dale about comic books and I was like, yeah, the Secret Wars is happening. But that Secret Wars deals with all these alternate universes coming together on a single planet. Like it's like a patchwork.
Right.
So I think that's what we're going to get. Some version of that.
TV show or film?
I think that's going to have to be a film. Going to have to be a film. But they are doing Secret Invasion. I think they did announce Secret Invasion.
I am hyped about that.
For a Disney Plus show. So maybe, but like I feel like Secret Wars is big enough. Like that's gotta be their version of an endgame. But
I'm hyped.
I think that's what we're going to get out of this. And I think maybe now that I'm talking out loud, maybe that 2012 Loki will come back in the film and be like, this is what I've been doing the entire time. I've been trying to keep this timeline together, but it's all gone to hell. And then, dude, and it solves everything. You can bring back Iron Man. You can bring back Captain America. You can bring back everyone because the timeline is fucked. So you can just pull. And then you can bring in the mutants as well. But I think the mutants will be introduced beforehand. I think they want to get the X-Men in sooner rather than later.
Can you imagine that our Loki is the one trying to keep the time, trying to save everybody? What in the world? What has it come to?
We're fucked, man. We're absolutely fucked.
You know what I found very fascinating? And I mean, I'm sure people who read or like deep in the comics know about these things, but man, like episode 2 of Loki really took a dark turn on time travel because we're always told about time travel as being like this fun thing. You can go back here and you can do this and you can see that. And it's like, no, we're going to talk about apocalypses and we're just going to go see some people die. And I'm like, whoa, that's insane. And then I thought to myself, if Paul had to go back in time and see an apocalypse, what?
Which apocalypse would I see?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, this is going to be the easiest one. The comet that wiped out the dinosaurs, or asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs.
Ooh, I didn't even think.
I'd see that. I would see that. Yeah. What about you?
It would probably be the fall of Troy.
Oh,
because I was really fascinated with that story growing up as a kid, and then seeing the film with Brad Pitt, which I had a very low bar for. But Brad Pitt was okay as Achilles. I was
okay with it. And it was innocuous the way they killed him. Like, you really had to look and see that they shot his Achilles heel.
Not a fan of Orlando Bloom in that film. Just me. But
it was Orlando Bloom, Eric Bana.
Eric Bana was fire. Eric Bana was not playing.
I haven't seen that movie since it came out in theaters. That was the first and only time. I remember not disliking it, but I don't remember anything in it.
I skipped into the movie to see that. I did not pay for it. So I'm not going to say which movie theater it was, but I paid for that film.
Dude, the amount of times I used to skip into theaters in 1998 when Titanic was in the theaters, I used to just enter the back door and pop into the theater just to watch certain parts of the movie.
That is not a time I would like to time travel to. I don't want to see that moment. I do not.
But I guess going into the episode, I thought that was really interesting. The way Loki was explaining how my variant would be hiding in these apocalypses, because no matter what you do, it's going to be wiped out. So, the TVA doesn't have to intervene. So it's not going to create any splinters in the timeline.
And it plays on his moniker, like the God of Mischief. It's like, yo, this is what I do. I fuck around. Only this time you won't know it's me, because I leave no tracks. It's incredible. I thought that was great and very, very subtle.
I thought it was really nice how they were able to do that and bring that cinematic quality to a TV show to revisit disasters. Mobius was like, I just want to have my salad, and
the Asgard salad. I was like, motherfucker,
what? What was that? He's sitting down and it was so sloppy, and even I felt was you're overdoing this, Loki. What's your end game here?
If I would have been more upset if it was something like strawberries or a milkshake, I would have been livid. But I like salad, so shout out to everybody who loves salad. But I'm not as big on salad as say a milkshake. So if Loki is sitting in front of me trying to explain variant theory with my milkshake, I would probably want to fight Loki.
I felt for Mobius in that, and I guess that's supposed to show their dynamic, which I thought in this episode. I really liked what Mobius said to Loki, which is here are two options of why, I'm so invested in you. One, maybe I saw a little kid who was scared and I saw him grow up as an adult, or two, I need something from you. You can pick what it is. And I was like,
which is exactly what Loki does to people.
Yeah.
I'm using you right now. Hello. I love it. It's Loki playing Loki. Which honestly, for a split second, if I had watched Loki's episode 2 High, I would have thought, Mobius is a Loki.
I feel like we're gonna have a twist, something like that. I'm curious. I feel like it's been too easy for Loki. When he kind of started off the episode wearing the variant jacket and then being like, oh, let me explain the difference between body doubles and illusions and all that stuff. I was like, you're playing too much on the team here. And I feel maybe he's misguiding everyone, especially at the end of last episode where you're like, I don't like hurting people. That's what weak people do to other people to make them appear stronger. And I was like, okay, it's not that I don't believe he's analyzed himself and knows that about himself, but I believe he's sharing that information to purposely manipulate everyone. But I think if these TVAs are as good as they say they are, there's one step ahead. And what is that? Is one of them Loki on it? Or one of them, another being? I don't know.
Oh, Paul, you and I are too smart to know. Like, we are too smart. We know that Loki has a few plans in place, and depending on how people react to one plan, that sets off another plan. So I love that. I also do think that the TVA folks are thinking a step ahead. Maybe not Mobius, because I think there are times when I've seen Mobius just kind of fall into whatever Loki is saying, even though he'll fight it off. I think deep down, Mobius wants to believe that Loki can change. And that is really that's what's driving this season. Is I want to see what Loki has planned.
Yeah, I want to see what Loki has planned too. We know his variants are up to no good. I'm just breezing by the episode here, and we're seeing the different variants of him.
Oh, I do have a question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
And this may be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
I hope I have an answer.
So, we're watching, we're at the scene where C20 was taken in 1985 in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And now Loki's there with the crew, and they set off these timers to reset the timeline as they're leaving. And we watch the dead Minutemen be wiped clean and reset. And we're watching C20's helmet be, wiped clean. And I thought to myself, all right, so C20's missing in action. Are the dead Minutemen now alive back at TVA, or are they just now dead? Because if you're resetting the scene, then does that mean that they're also reset?
That's a great question. I don't know what the answer is. So that was the thing that I didn't understand. Like when they were sitting down and like Mobius is like, the TVA is all I do, why am I blanking on what they call the time gods?
The timekeepers.
The timekeepers. Like the timekeepers, know the end of everything and we don't question them. And at the end, we will all come together and everything. And it felt like that was an opportunity where maybe like we could know more about Mobius. And like, are you just here? Do you just exist to serve this purpose? Because that other guy didn't know what a fucking fish was. So boyfriend isn't getting out of the office. Do you just come into existence or do you go home? Were you birthed? Do you come from somewhere? So I don't know. Did they just die? I mean, is it like a non-playable character that just dies in a video game and you're like, that's it?
Yeah, I'm so happy you brought that up because I had that same thought. And I'm like, where does he come from?
Wait, hang on. Let me just look at that scene one more time because I was talking about this in last week's episode. When they set off the bomb to redo the scene, the magic that comes out of it is purple. But now that I'm looking at it, here's the thing. Okay, so here's the thing that I surmised from last episode. When the energy is orange, they disintegrate people. They wipe them from existence.
Okay.
And then when it's purple, that's where it's more of a neutralizing effect. So if you notice in that first scene where they come to Loki in the desert, the leading Minuteman Minutewoman has a baton that's purple, and then the two Minutemen behind her have ones that are orange. So I'm taking that the purple is to neutralize him, and then the orange is to wipe him out. So when they set off the time bomb, it's purple. So it's not wiping anything from existence. So in theory, what you just said, it should rewind the scene, everyone comes back. But now that I'm seeing this episode play out right now, when the bomb goes off, it's purple, but the energy coming out of it is orange and they disintegrate. So I don't know. So yeah, they say clearly we're resetting the timeline, but like, is that it for the Minutemen? Is that?
Here's another question.
Yeah.
And this could be just from my previous knowledge of Loki and other films. The first time we saw the Avengers come together, Loki had created an army, correct?
Yeah.
So what if Lady Loki is dragging people into another dimension to create an army to go after the timekeepers? And that could be nothing. I thought that's why she had grabbed C20, but then we saw C20 show up at the end saying it's real. What the hell is that? But we'll get to that later. So I wonder, is she building an army or is it just going to be her against everybody?
I don't know. I mean, that's a really great question. I think we're going to find out now after the ramifications at the end of this episode, what the agenda is.
Yeah.
I think we have to build towards like a final showdown. So yeah, I think like building an army and all that stuff should be in
And
there. Ballywick. Yeah.
and
I love how passionate you are.
so she's taken. So she didn't take our Loki, but our Loki did follow her wherever she's
Yeah.
going. How many other Lokis have followed her to wherever she's going?
So I'm confused by that. Maybe you can help fill in the gap here. Like, are they? So I took from last episodes that they hunt various variants of Loki. Is this just one of the variants, or is she like the variant that's causing the most trouble, or is she the only variant out there? Because we obviously saw like different variants of him, and then now we see her. Wait, let's call her Randy Loki because she doesn't even want to be called Loki. Like I know, listeners, we haven't spoken this intensely since probably our MFA program or like the backstage of like our Slice MCing gigs. Like I'm just so like this is probably my favorite discussion I've had on this podcast because we're so into it, and it's like with one of my best friends. But like so that's what I'm kind of confused on because I do agree. Maybe she is building an army. Maybe these other variant Lokis are coming. But why wouldn't she? Like why did Randy have that awkward exchange with Loki?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and you know, it's kind of that thing where you understand that Loki's super arrogant, and so maybe it's just like I'm arrogant, so this is how I am, and you apparently you're me, but I'm the better one, so everyone thinks they're the better one. But you know, she allows him to follow her. She leaves that portal open that's long enough so that he can come through it. So I don't know. This is where my mind starts going all over the place.
Let me just rewind really quickly because I'm going through the episode here and I wanted to mention something. So speaking of that variant of Randy and she hiding in various, apocalypses, the way he came to that conclusion was because he came across the Ragnarok file.
Right.
And what I thought was really interesting about that, and I just want to note it with you, the population of Asgard when Ragnarok happened was 9,719 people. I was like, that's all? Fine, neither here nor there.
Right.
But I was like, wow, like Asgard wasn't heavily populated.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, wait, that's not a lot of people. Like
that's not a lot of people there.
It's Asgard, but
yeah.
All right.
I mean, I guess that's how they all fit in that ship. And then that's how Thanos was able to come and kill half of them. And now they're on Earth. But okay, sure. But so they do a little time hopping around. And finally they're able to find that Loki and she unveils herself. And what were your thoughts when you saw her unveil herself?
Well, the first thing I thought was, what a place to hide. Rott's cart, which is like a Walmart, but great. And I was a little disappointed.
I was very disappointed.
That's the thing. I don't know why. I've seen this episode now 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I'm disappointed. I guess I don't know. Like, I knew that it would be a version of Loki. Mm-hmm. So that much I knew. I just felt like someone who was doing that much, they probably I love mysteries. So I kind of wanted her identity to be left a mystery. Like if they would have given me her, like shown like her taking off the hood in episode 3, I would have been fine with it. But I don't know. I think it's the timing for me more than anything. I don't know why.
Here's the thing. So in the comics, when Loki becomes Lady Loki, he hijacks Sif. Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, I'm saying, okay. What you about to say?
I was like, oh my God, did the call drop? I'm always so paranoid of the call dropping. So in the comics, when Loki becomes Lady Loki, he hijacks Sif's body.
So I heard about that.
So Sif obviously has been in the movies. Jamie Alexander plays her. She's been MIA. I thought if they're going to do Lady Loki, it's going to be Jamie Alexander and you're going to unveil it and she's gonna have the fur, the long hair, and she's gonna be, own that fucking
That's what it
scene.
was. It was the badassness of it. I didn't feel that.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it. Just felt like, I don't know. Like I looked it up online. So the appearance of this lady Loki is reminiscent of Loki, Agent of Asgard, issue number 16,
Mhm.
and it's fine. Like I'm glad that we have that narrative, but like I think we needed Jamie Alexander in it,
Yeah.
and a lot of people here are like, well, is it Enchantress now? But I'm still like, I don't know. Like even if it was Enchantress, doesn't really make it for me.
Maybe it was like a mix of both Enchantress and that version that you're talking about. I don't know. It was underwhelming, and I think maybe that's the reaction that they wanted us to have because they have another Loki that they're gonna unveil, maybe in the last two episodes or something like that. Maybe.
So here's something I think the Disney Plus shows have done really well. They have brought in really great guest stars. And, we saw that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We saw that in WandaVision. Well, I feel like WandaVision could have had like a Doctor Strange in it. But I'm hoping with this one, maybe we will get Chris Hemsworth. Maybe we will get Jamie Alexander back. Maybe that will be one of like the stories. They are going to various locations now that the time bombs went off, and we saw where the timeline had been ruptured.
Mm-hmm.
And we know one of the locations is going to be Vormir, and that's the location of the Soul Stone, where obviously Black Widow died.
Yep.
Asgard. I mean, are we going to get, Anthony Hopkins? I don't know. I'm curious how the rights work, because they're using footage of these actors.
Yeah.
So does that mean the actors can appear on it? I don't know how that works. I remember there was a time in television you couldn't use the image of an actor without having to pay like a fee, like an obscene amount of fee. So I wonder if maybe that's still in place, and the fact that they focused in on, Odin, are we going to see Odin later?
Every time I watch something that's Disney, I think to myself, Disney's reach knows no bounds.
Hala, which is a Kree homeworld. I'm looking forward to that. We're going to see that. Yeah.
And also, Paul, how long are these last couple of episodes going to be? Are we going to get a feature-length episode? Maybe an hour plus?
Well, it's so funny. I've never been obsessed with episode, time count. And since WandaVision, the first thing I do when I hit the episode, I'm pause it and I see how long the episode is. I don't know.
You'll do that?
Yeah, just to see. And Loki's obviously longer. And I get it. WandaVision had to do the 30-minute, but once they broke free of the 30-minute sitcoms, they were still pretty I don't know, crazy.
I try not to look at the times, how long it's going to be, because then it takes away some of the joy for me. I'm like, oh, now I know that in 30 minutes this is going to be over.
I don't know, man. It's just so weird. WandaVision really fucked the way I watch TV in a great way. But the other thing we haven't spoken about were the jet skis. The jet ski cars.
Listen, if I get Owen Wilson on a jet ski by the end of this, I'm down. Hell yeah. Did I tell you I met Owen Wilson in Atlanta?
No.
Yeah, so I used to cater in undergrad. I would cater at this popular nightclub in Atlanta during the day on weekends, and Owen Wilson was wrapping up some movie he was shooting at Google. And so it's a rap party, and I was not expecting him to be there, and he was there, and I'm passing drinks. So of course I walk up to Owen Wilson and I ask him, would he like a drink? And he was very nice. He said no, but it was a very pleasant no. And I was like, oh shit, I met Owen Wilson and he told me no. That's awesome.
I love that. Yeah, I loved him in Royal Tenenbaums. I thought he was phenomenal in there. I think nothing but great things.
I mean, he's perfect in this role.
He is. He has that dry wit and sense of humor and vulnerability that I feel I understand why he was casted in that. I'm trying to see other movies he was in, because now all of a sudden I can't name an Owen Wilson film apart from the Royal Tenenbaums.
And I do think that film that he was working on when I saw him was The Intern. I think it might have been The Intern.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Oh,
Yeah.
Zoolander. There we go. Of course. I loved him in
Oh, the
Zoolander.
Zoolander. Yeah.
I loved him so much in Zoolander. He was in Cable Guy. Oh, he was in Armageddon as well. I actually don't
Wedding
remember.
Crashers. Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, Wedding Crashers. You're absolutely right. I don't remember him in Armageddon though. I'm
I
like,
do not remember him in Armageddon.
and I watch Armageddon. Oh, he was also in Fantastic Mr. Fox, obviously because of Wes Anderson. He's one
Yeah.
of his darlings. Yeah, I think he's done such a great job with this role. It's a role I don't know much about. I did not know about Agent Mobius before. I did
Uh-huh.
find this little Easter egg online from Den of Geeks, which is where one of our contemporaries from the new school works now, John, or he
Huh?
worked there while he was at the MFA program. But he didn't write this article, but the article says the Renaissance Fair takes place on April 12th, 1985 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Why Oshkosh? It could very well be because that's a place where legendary Marvel writer slash editor Mark Grunwald, the man who is the basis for Agent Mobius, was born.
That's pretty cool.
So
And
I thought it
speaking
was
of
cool.
Agent
Thank you, Den of
Mobius,
Geeks.
speaking of Agent Mobius, I do have a question for you. What are your thoughts? And I think she gets overlooked, but I think she plays a very big role in this story. Ravana Renslayer, the judge.
Oh, she's phenomenal. I mean, there's nothing else to say. She is a scene stealer. And I love that first episode where they talk. He goes to the bench and they have that witty exchange. I think we're going to see her sort of crack,
Right.
and unravel as things go up because she's like the Scott Summers, like the Cyclops of the TVA. Like she has her orders, she follows it. And now what do you do with the character like that? Give them their own like agency. Like, oh, maybe everything I've been taught isn't working. So maybe she'll become one of the new timekeepers. I don't know.
And you know what? I was wondering, like, oh, is she one of the timekeepers? And now I'm thinking maybe she's not one of the timekeepers, but her office is a gateway to the timekeepers. Maybe is there? And also too, Paul, I wonder. I think it's become obvious in the first two episodes that the timekeepers do not exist in the same realm as the TVA.
Mm-hmm.
Because we would have, usually like in these stories when there's like this Wizard of Oz of sorts, everyone's like, oh, you can't go down that hall, or you can't go in that room, or you can't go on that floor. But we never get that. And so I'm wondering, in this world of time travel or dimensions, are they in another dimension?
I guess. How would they even render people creating a sacred timeline, apart from like that animation? I agree with you. Actually, with what you just said now about the Wizard of Oz, I'm wondering if we're going to get that little disappointment, like peek behind the curtain, and you find out the TVAs are absolutely nobodies. They are just sad, pathetic beings who are supposed to be the most powerful, but are the most weak. And that gives room for someone like Loki to come in. I don't know.
Because we know they're evil. We sense that they're evil. And I don't think Lady Loki is the evil one here. I think she's, trying to give everyone agency, maybe. But I feel like Mobius and Renslayer, like all these folks are just kind of living in this simulation. And they have their orders, and they're just kind of marching to the beat of the drum that the timekeepers are giving them. And yeah, I didn't think about it like that. We may be disappointed by these evil timekeepers.
I mean, story of my life. Peek behind the curtain. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else in the episode that we haven't already discussed that you wanted to tackle?
I think my biggest takeaway is these variants of Loki. I wonder if we're only going to see two. And I think if we're going to see more than two, then because we know that there's a season 2.
Yeah.
And so what are the events that lead us to season 2? I think that's the big question.
And how's season 2 going to look like? I think is most important. Like, is it going to with the Disney shows in general, because there's talk of a WandaVision season 2, which obviously they can't replicate that. Same with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's not much of, you can't revisit that. It's not like a TV show where traditional television where that's the only medium. These characters are going to move forward in the movies. They set them up in as launching pads. So what would a season 2 for Loki or WandaVision or anything look like? I don't know. Are they going to adapt stories from the comics? Because WandaVision was a direct adaptation from the original Vision and Scarlet Witch comics. I'm curious what they're gonna do, or is it going to be something more original like what we're seeing now with Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier? You know,
Yeah, finish your thought. Finish that thought.
no, that's it. That's all. That's all. That's
You
all
know,
she's gonna ramble.
I said, I said earlier that maybe Loki ends up working for the TVA in Mobius's place, but that only happens if Loki never meets the Timekeepers, which is like he wants to. I have to imagine that in some way he wants to get to the bottom of that whole situation. So if he does, then he's not working for the TVA. Either he's helping destroy it or he's taking over it. But I don't see Loki wanting to take over TVA as much as destroy it. That's more mischievous.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I want to see where episode 3 is gonna pick up. And I think that's going to give us, what do you think?
What if we get a cameo? Because you mentioned cameos, guest appearances. What if Doctor Strange is a part of all this and he stops Loki from doing something that could really just fuck shit up?
First of all, I would tell Dr. Stephen Strange, fuck you, because Catherine Hahn literally said the Scarlet Witch's power surpasses that of the Sorcerer Supreme, and they're in fucking Jersey. Like, I'm sorry, did you not hear your name being called? Like, from Jersey? A. B, this is where you're going to show up? Fine, sure, Jan. I think what we're going to see are different versions of Thor.
I love this.
I think we're going to see Frog Thor. I think, something like that. Maybe voiced by Chris Hemsworth. How amazing would that be?
Dope.
You know what I mean?
Dope.
Yeah, so let's see where that goes. It depends on budgets, it depends on who's available. You know what I mean? Like,
because these superheroes are off in other galaxies fighting shit,
Yeah. I mean, are we going to see Beta Ray Bill? I mean, there was a statue for Beta Ray Bill in Thor Ragnarok. Is this the version we're going to finally get to see? I don't know. Presumably, everyone has variants. So are we going to see variants of other characters? How does that look like? I don't know.
I try to move that part of the story to the back of my brain. Like, everyone has variants, but every time you say it, I'm just like mind blown that this thing could go anyway. And I'm sure the writer's room, they're just having a good time with us on this shit.
Well, so the writer of this series the creator of this series is also the writer for Doctor Strange 2.
Love it.
And I think the rumors for Doctor Strange 2 is that it's going to obviously peak in the multiverse because it's called Multiverse of Madness, which again, in episode 1, they're like, there are Nexus events that break the timeline, creates multiverse and all this madness. So we know somehow the logics we're getting here is going to be applicable to Doctor Strange 2, which I think is done filming. I'm pretty sure it is done filming, but I think we're supposed to see alternate versions of characters in that. That's a rumor. So I guess these would be variants. By that logic, we will be seeing variants in Doctor Strange 2.
Oh,
yeah.
Could the Timekeepers be a part of Secret Wars?
Oh my God, absolutely. I think if they're going to do Secret Wars, they're going to have to bring in Doctor Doom if they want to do it right. And Doctor Doom is rumored for Black Panther 2. So let's see.
Why do you keep doing this to me?
I know. I'm sorry. I wanted, before you go, I know you're on a time crunch. And I've been told I need to keep my episodes shorter. I wanted to ask you about Milkshake Scholar. What exciting things do you have coming down the pipeline?
Man, so I have 4 episodes left. The next one, they come out Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to take a break. I think I'm going to take a month off. I've been going at this since March, and I'm exhausted. So, full disclosure, I'm taking a break.
No,
and then we'll come back. We'll come back. We'll do season. I'll ramp it back up with some content, and I'm thinking that season 3 will be live. I'll do a series of live Instagram. So Instagram lives, making milkshakes with folks like live. The only problem with that is the fun in doing Instagram live is when you're able to do it while also interacting with people who are watching.
Yeah.
And so I have to figure out how to do that because it's just me here. So I wouldn't be able to set up my phone and do the milkshakes and also
Like talk to
respond to
people.
what people are saying. So I'll take that month off and figure that out. But I'm definitely, people were so excited when they saw you and I making milkshakes. And I got a lot of DMs and text messages about how cool that was and how I should do more of that. So
And how
listening,
disastrous it was on my end.
listening to the feedback, you were great. What are you talking about?
Oh man. Like I will say the milkshake was great, but like I'm pretty sure like I did not cap it or something, and like it was flying everywhere. I forgot. But that was one of my favorite like interviews and in programs. I think what you do is so incredible and special, and you were able to pivot during the pandemic because listeners, he used to do these in person. Like he would go to an actual like milkshake store, like you got B-roll of you ordering it with your guests, and you would sit down and you brought that to Zoom in a very exciting way. So congrats on that.
Thank you. Thank you. I was actually at a party cookout last night, and a Pulitzer Prize winner was there. And we were talking about ice cream, and we got on the subject of Milkshake Scholar. And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. Let's do it. I'm like, all right, great. So who knows? At the end of this year, you might see me on Instagram Live with a Pulitzer Prize winner making milkshakes.
You know, every instinct in me is to ask, like, who was it? But we'll when it happens, it happens, and we'll promo the shit out of it. Yes. Randy, where can the folks at home find Milkshake Scholar? Where can they find you? Do you have any essays coming up? We're going to be on a panel on Friday together.
We are. You can find me on Instagram at Milkshake Scholar. That's literally just Milkshake Scholar. Mondays, 7 p.m. And my personal Instagram is on there as well. I think it's _R Winston's World. So you can find me there as well. I usually live on Instagram with my food and all that fun stuff, book stuff. So yeah. And
literally you want to talk about books, you want to talk about milkshakes, you want to talk about writing, editorial, and now MCU and sports. I love how you're like sports. I'm like, what? I'm like, we've never spoken. We've never had a single conversation about sports.
Well, I know you're not into sports, so I usually, I make myself believe that I'm interested in a lot of different things. So luckily, you and I love more things than we hate. Like I know that you love comics and MCU. And we talk a lot about wine and food and books and all that stuff. So we got a lot to talk about. We clicked right away when we met.
Oh, well, I knew, of course, it was in Helen Schulman's class. And also like when your submission, which was a sci-fi submission, and you had a map of the world you were doing, like you had actually put that in. I was just like, oh yeah. I looked at Kyle and Robert, who listeners is some of our contemporaries from our program. And I was like, oh yeah, we're letting him sit with us because you were like a year one student.
Yeah, I was new to New York as well. So
I keep forgetting that. But you
showed me the ropes. You were one of the people that showed me the ropes here.
Dude, you've become one of my best friends. And like like I said in the intro, like we just always are on the same page. There's always a parallel. And thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that you even thought to have me on for MCU stuff. This is awesome.
No, man. Thank you as always.
I get to brag to my MCU group chat now that I was on the podcast.
Bring them next time. This is the first of many. Bring the entire gang. No, I want that guy who does Iron Man suits. That's the one I want.
I gotta talk to him. I gotta get him on here.
All right, listeners. As always, I'm the Uncanny Dayspring signing off.